And then I came up my old friend, Wilfred Brimley. I said, "You know, I have a wonderful this I love her so much." He said, "She's younger than I am." He said, "Let me tell you something, my friend. The worst thing for an old man is an old woman." Jean's death wasn't a peaceful sleep. It was a performance that wasn't just a lament. It was a quiet accusation against a world that once hailed Gene Hackman as a legend, then silently erased him from its own memory. For years, Hollywood told the story that Hackman had retired to enjoy old age in the deserts of Santa Fe, surrounded by sunlight paintings and his 3 loyal dogs. But Duvall said Gene never chose silence. If he was silent, it means someone made him that way. And that single sentence shook everything people thought they knew. Could the legend of a natural death have been nothing more than a carefully staged illusion? Who silenced him, the most outspoken, uncompromising man in Hollywood, until he vanished without a single goodbye? And why did Robert Duvall wait until nearly 100 red years old to finally reveal what he had kept buried for half a lifetime? Come with me back to Santa Fe, to a locked house, a clock frozen at 3:17 a.m., and a small folded note bearing the words, "No more lies." The clue that opened the secret Hollywood wanted buried forever. I knew Gene long enough to understand that if something was wrong, he'd be the first to sense it. But this time, he was silent. Early on the morning of February 26, 2025, a pale mist hung over the Santa Fe sky. Wind from the Sangre de Cristo Range drifted in, carrying a chill and the dry earthen smell of the desert. At the end of Canyon Road, the house at 42A, where Gene Hackman had lived music in seclusion for more than 20 years, stood motionless in the dim light. The iron gate was shut, curtains drawn, not a sound. To neighbors it was strange. Mr. Hackman had never missed a morning walking his 3 dogs along the quiet street. But for 7 days straight, no one music had seen him leave the house. At around 8:47 a.m., Calvin Reyes, the community's electrical maintenance worker, drove over to check the system. After noticing that Hackman's meter had barely moved, he went to the gate and knocked 3 times 5 seconds, music apart. No reply. He called softly, "Mr. Hackman," but only the faint hum of a fan came from inside. Glancing through a side window, Reyes saw a glass of water tipped over on the wooden floor, the light reflecting on the surface like mercury stains. A bad feeling made him step back, pull out his phone, and call Raymond Ortiz, the neighborhood security guard. Ortiz arrived at 8:59 music a.m. The two circled the house, tried each door, all locked, no pry marks, no footprints on the sandy ground. The house looked frozen, Ortiz said. Music, they called the police. At 9:34 a.m., 2 Santa Fe Police Department patrol cars, music, pulled up, units 214 and 226. Lieutenant Megan Rowe, 41, led the team, accompanied by Officer Tom Weaver and crime scene specialist Leo Martinez. When the iron gate opened, music, the wind sifted through the wild pear trees, carrying a biting cold. Rowe used a master key to open the front door. As it cracked, a gust of cold air spilled out, laced with the smells of medicine, wood wax, and rusted, music, metal. Inside, the light was dim. Heavy curtains were drawn. Only thin slivers of light cut through, illuminating dust motes hanging in the air. The living room was neatly arranged. Landscape, music, paintings Hackman had painted himself covered the walls. A vintage piano lay under a fine film of dust, and a low bookshelf was crammed with old film magazines. Everything was so still you could hear the soft touch of shoes on the wood floor. Lieutenant Rowe swept her flashlight down the hallway. A fine layer of dust covered the floor, except for a single track of footprints leading from the front door to a turn into the kitchen. The prints were shallow, heading inward with no prints leading back, music out. The beam found its end where a body lay on its side against the wall. It was Gene Hackman. He lay motionless and still touching the spilled glass. His face was calm to an eerie degree, eyes slightly open, lips gently pressed as if he'd been about to finish a sentence. No wounds, no bruising. The old watch on his wrist had stopped at 3:17 a.m. On the floor, The water had dried into a faint ring with a few drops of old liquor around it carrying a light sour smell. Ro moved on, following the narrow hall to the bathroom. The door was ajar. Her beam fell on the wet tile where Betsy Arakawa, Hackman's wife, lay on her side beside the sink. Her hair was damp, a white bathrobe clung wet against her, and a bottle of antibiotics had dropped near her foot. The wall clock in the bathroom read 3:18. A small window was open, cold air drifting in and making the curtain tremble. No signs of struggle, no broken items, only a trace of damp and the music, faint scent of antiseptic. When the forensics team arrived at 10:10 a.m., they photographed, collected samples, then broadened the search to other rooms. In the bedroom, police found a wardrobe locked from the outside. When they broke the latch, they found a yellow Labrador, Xena, curled up with eyes, music shut. The other two dogs hid under the dining table, trembling, but alive. Scratch marks gouged deep into the wardrobe door, a detail that made Ro pause, though she didn't enter it into the main report. A full inventory was taken. Valuable paintings, watches, cash, jewelry, nothing missing. However, Specialist Martinez noted several irregularities. The security camera system's hard drive had been removed entirely. Only the power cable remained. The back kitchen door was pulled nearly closed, its hinges showing fresh rotation marks. The power meter showed a shutoff between 2 o'clock and 6 a.m. on the night in question. At 11:55 a.m., the ambulance took the bodies to the city morgue. The police preliminary report stated clearly, no signs of forced entry or altercation. 2 decedents died days apart. Cause likely natural. No property loss. That afternoon, the Santa Fe New Mexican ran a short piece. Hollywood legend Gene Hackman dies at home at 95. Police confirmed no signs of foul play. Most major outlets followed with similar headlines. Television replayed footage of Hackman accepting his 1972 Oscar. The anchor's gentle voice saying, he passed peacefully, just as he lived in music his final years. When reporters reached out to Robert Duvall, he stayed silent for a long time before answering. They say he went naturally. Then, why did the watch stop at 3:17 and the camera drive disappear? He stubbed out his cigarette, eyes, music drifting, then added in a gravelly voice, I asked the police just one question. Did they examine the kitchen properly? That wasn't a random remark. To Duvall, the kitchen was where Hackman kept what he valued most. Handwritten drafts, a few letters, some never-released paintings. Police didn't record that detail. They treated this as a routine death wrapped up neatly in 2 days. But to Duvall, that silence was anything but normal. He said Hackman didn't believe in easy endings.